Hello and welcome to the SpyParty Major League Ruby Finals cast. It's a warm spring day here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I could not be happier to be inside watching colored pixels move around on screens. My name is Warning Track, and I'm joined by Slappy Davis all the way on the other side of the country, where I assume it's even nicer.
So I am actually glad we didn't even practice because it is actually very cold today. It is one of the coldest days of the last week. Now it will go back up into like 80 degrees and sunny like later this afternoon, but it was quite cold playing Ultimate Frisbee this morning.
For those of you who are not from America and don't know much about California as a state, when he says cold, I'm assuming that's a very relative term, yes?
It's like it got below 60 degrees during the
And again,
day.
for those of you who are not American, 60 degrees is in Fahrenheit and not Celsius, and I'm just going to translate absolutely everything he says for our friends across the pond. But yes, just so you know, those of us in America regard California as very comfortable and very whiny about any temperature that gets even moderately chilly.
It's terrible.
That's fair. Anyway, we have a big match for you here. We have FireLordEthan and SykoSloth, two of the funnier or more interesting usernames, I would say. And what do you know? We got all sorts of numbers and stats and standings for you because this being the finals, that means there's an entire season's worth of data for us to look at. Let's bring that up.
Yeah, and
There we
so
go.
the Fire Lord Ethan, we'll just call him Ethan from here on out.
I think
Um,
so, yeah.
He's so Ruby has actually had a bit of a pile up in the top half. It had been very close most of the way through this. So if you look at the standings here, we had FireLordEthan standing out slightly with 11 points, but then we had two people at 9, two people 1 point beyond them at 8. So there was a lot of contentious games going down the stretch because anyone really could have broken out and got in here. So we have a pretty good like see if there's anything we can learn from the sniper stats. So the big thing from here is I think this is not surprising just for anybody that is first in any given league, but also
Hmm.
not surprising for Ethan is that his sniper clearly a standout amongst all of the snipers in the league, and his spy was right in line with the top spies, but his
Yes.
sniper in particular dominant.
Yes, I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, the highest spy win rate, sure, but he's barely edging out SykoSloth there. There's a clear tier, but it's that big lead as sniper, right? Like a 10% jump. Nobody else even cracking 60 there. I mean, look, you never really know how any spy party match is going to go, but the best guess for this one is that's going to turn on whether Ethan, Lord of Fire, maintains that sniper dominance, or if SykoSloth can snuff out the flame, so to speak.
Absolutely. And of course, there is the traditional matchup of Filer Ethan has been is a relatively newer player. Like it's starting to become harder and harder to consider them new, given that they have been in several competitive events by now and playing a ton. But they have been really rising up the ranks really quickly. Where SykoSloth has been around for a while now. I want to say at least 4 or 5 years. It's always hard to date people in Spy Party because it'll feel like they're around forever very quickly.
You are correct.
But
They were in the 2020 Summer Cup, I believe, and SCL 5 and 6. So definitely 4 or 5 years at least.
there we go. Yeah, that's a good way to kind of have it. Is like if they were an old SCL at this point, they're kind of like okay, now they've been around long enough to say that they're a pretty regular vet at this point. And of course, I've always done well, but haven't really broken super far into deep into any tournaments. But just really done well and solidly in the leagues. I don't believe though that in league play they've been able to stand out like this. So this would be pretty great, especially given that this league was or this division was pretty close, and that was a big pileup, and they're able to just get in there on the back of their pretty well-rounded play.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there's a tiebreaker there between second and third, and then 1 point off for fourth and fifth. That pileup is absolutely the way to put it. I do want to add one more thing to that sniper win rate that you pointed out. Here's a statistic you probably could have guessed. As you move down the divisions here in SML, the sniper win rate drops and the spy win rate increases without exception. And there's a huge jump at the end. The worst sniper win rate in Grandmaster, for example, is almost as high as the second best here in Ruby. So it's a different game as you move up the ranks, and that sniper consistency usually carries the day. And if you figure if any of these players are going to go on to Grandmaster and do well there, it's going to be because of that sniper win rate.
Absolutely. And I guess we can look at the actual match histories of the players. So we've learned from the slides in here that there was actually a lot of nice contentious play as far as results, but now we can see where they have fallen before. So, of course, our eyes are going to go directly towards the last time they actually played one another, which was week 5, in which Ethan was able to eke out a 7-5 win. So, very close in their last match, which you would expect for players that are at the top of the league. And Ethan almost gave an opportunity for Skarney to jump into the finals there at the end. And if SykoSloth hadn't taken a 7-4 over Ico, they would have found themselves in the finals as well. And that would have been an interesting little problem there for Ethan to have just lost versus Skarney and then go directly into a match with him. So he might be actually a little relieved that Syko was able to pull that out because he's proven himself against Syko earlier.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing here, narrative brain turn on, right? Like, what does the underdog have going for them? And I guess you'd have to say, based on the standing SykoSloth, the underdog, though probably not a big one. What you could say for them is that both of those losses, very narrow as can be. And while Ethan only has one loss, it is their most recent match. So that's going to be weighing on them maybe just a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, and the other thing we could say about Psycho is, and this is true, kind of for both players, is both of them started off with in week 1 with a really sizable win, right?
Hmm.
7-1, right? And then all of the matches after they started progressively getting later into the season got a little bit closer. Like 7-3 in week 6 for Ethan was the biggest win that Ethan had in the second half, and then almost, I mean, basically since week 2, SykoSloth has been eking out either their losses or their wins. They've been close sets all the way across.
I think that's really good, and it makes sense that as players familiarize themselves and everyone shakes the rust off. You know, you got different levels of rust all the time. The matches get closer as the weather heats up.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to get into the draft to start looking at what these players are going to be picking against each other. So the other thing that we're going to have in here is, so they have faced each other one another before, but their drafts are going to be a little bit more in depth because the match is a little bit longer. And then this is the part where I'm going to have to make sure we say it correctly. Ethan gets an extra single and determines order. But the main thing you're going to see on the draft here is that they get that extra single. In case you're wondering why there are more picks on one side rather than the other, that's what they get for winning the actual regular season.
I always like it when the regular season has benefits like that, you know, rather than have everything decided in the playoffs. You should get an advantage for doing so well over months. The only thing I really want to highlight here perfectly, though, is the decline to restrict from SykoSloth. For anyone wondering, why would you do that? Because a restricted venue is not a banned venue. They can still pick it. And sometimes, when you tell them what you want to restrict, it incentivizes them to pick it, and you don't want them to have that information. There is, of course, the bluff of restricting something you actually want them to pick, and basically head faking and making sure that they pick it for you by feigning weakness. But sometimes you just don't want to play that game. And in this case, you know, SykoSloth says, nope, no information coming from me.
Yeah, I would say like oftentimes if they're not strategizing around the restrict like that, they just restrict something they don't kind of like, and it
Hmm.
seems like SykoSloth agrees that they don't really like it because you would think that especially in these longer drafts, like the restrict is just going to show up because there's not that many venues to pick from. Like
Right.
after you start running through them, right? Which also has some actually something I like about the kind of multiply effect is that instead of like doing the doubles up front, is like you have these multiplies that you can add in and you can stack them on top of each other, and they help venues not collide with one another where you're left without choice. So I do like this format a lot. So I guess you can read a lot into the bans. They both ban a obstruction venue, especially I think FireLordEthan, as far as I know, is a vocal opponent of Redwoods. I don't know SykoSloth's history on Aquarium, but Aquarium just one of the most popular bands altogether. And then the picks again, there's just so many picks that you can read a little bit into kind of the directions that they go, but there's just so many picks that really it's the multiplies that are going to tell them where they think their strengths are.
Yeah, I mean, the single pick from SykoSloth, clear theme there. None of the soft tell venues, nothing too behavioral. And FireLordEthan, little more mixed, right? And it makes sense, though, when you think about it. Obviously, you see Pub and Terrace, you figure someone who's willing to lean into the soft tells. But then you see Library and Gallery, and those are classic, I think my sniper is better than yours picks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and both like very, very large venues for the A4 of 8s. And so we only have one A5, eight, and a 1 5 of 8, and then we are going to have a few A3s. But so what we don't see are things like no high rise, no balcony, no veranda. So some of the outlier maps in that regard have been declined, so to speak. I am curious, of course, how pub is going to go, but we'll have to get into the games to see that.
We will indeed, and that's a perfect segue to get into said games. It's going to be Modern first, and it's going to be SykoSloth spying as Red Dress. Are you gentlemen both ready?
I am indeed.
All right, here we go. In three, two, one, playing it. SykoSloth, like I said, probably a modest underdog if you're just going by the regular season results, but it was a very tight division. The big question is going to be that sniper from FireLordEthan. If it is on, there's only so much you can do.
Absolutely. And something that we can note here is sometimes the person that picks the first Spire Sniper, sometimes it's just they cared more about setting up their venue picks. But on this one, because Ethan won the regular season, I think they got to pick both the maps and they got to pick order. So this is actually more something that could have some deliberation behind it. But some players just honestly don't care very much. But we do see that Ethan's going to be starting on Sniper and have to basically force Psycho to try to break every given set.
Personally, I always like starting on Sniper. I want to start off with a win. I wanted it to be an easy win. I want to get comfortable. I want to get less nervous as early as possible, but that's just me. Early Seduce from SykoSloth at Statues, where they get 2 inspects on the far left side as well, and they're going to pick up a Purloin Delegate here, because why not? If you're going to take a drink, you might as well take a Delegate with it, and you can just let it expire if you don't need it. We are going to join this conversation, but interestingly enough, there was no one in it that we cared about until we joined, at which point the double agent came over and met us. Let's see if we take this. There are a fair number of people in conversation, but probably not enough to do this early. This is probably a Delegate join, if anything.
Yeah, and Seduction Target was thinking about maybe joining us, but then veered off and went to the bookshelf. So there's not gonna be an option there. Ooh, okay. We are just gonna immediately take it. We it's not even a walkout,
Oh!
but nice catch there. I was very curious about that one. So so just to make sure that we see this, that was a standing bug, not a we are standing still and bugging. So we don't actually take the bug, the walking bug, when Ambassador comes in. We wait until they've stopped and then take that bug. So it's very much a call out on the sniper to actually pay attention to it. Um,
Yes.
I, I don't know if we would have gotten away with the bug coming in. I think we might have. I mean, you'd have to anticipate that the ambassador was also going to stop and we just stick our arms out. But FireLordEthan all over it. Honestly, the standing bug, it may have been the arm. Usually, when you have a standing bug, you see the head, but you do just see a bit of that highlight hand sticking out. Because I would say the head was pretty well covered.
Yeah, it really
In this
was.
order.
If they caught the lean, it's a very good catch from Ethan. But I think it's got to be the hand there. And that's just great vision there, especially because this is not someone approaching the ambassador where you realize they're coming under threat. They are putting themselves into threat. So the spy has to basically be quote unquote lucky to be standing there when the ambassador joins. So it's a particularly good job from Ethan to be all over that.
Yeah, and actually, I'll talk about this next game because this is gonna be like a little bit of a more rambly moment. So we can start the next game because there probably won't be anything too crazy happening at the beginning.
Well, we'll see. You're tempting fate there. It's Fire Lord Ethan as the spy as Teal. Still on Modern in three, two, one, playing it. Let's see if you have a chance to make your point now.
Yeah, so the other thing that is going to be definitely true on Modern is spies get into more trouble in that conversation circle on bug arms than any other because the radius of the circle is smallest. So because the there's probably mathier ways to describe this, but because everyone's angle relative to one another is tighter, your hand sticks out more to the side when you do the bug. So you actually have to care more about your arm than normally you do when you're in that specific conversation circle on Modern, and then of course any other venue that you have small conversation circles.
Right. Yes, there's a stronger curve on the center of the circle, so there are more there's less coverage there for sure than there would be on, let's say, a standard ballroom conversation, even, or one of the ones out front here. By the way, that's a 51% flirt at bookshelves with Kane, our seduction target, to start this off. And the ambassador joins in the exact same conversation circle you were just talking about. However, there's no one else really to give us any cover, so I don't think we're going to be tempted to try this.
Yeah, absolutely no chance. And the nice thing at least is We were invading the well, I mean, we were invading. The ambassador came up and invaded their own personal space and then got angry and left. But then we didn't have to worry about trying to make it look like if we had left, it was us being nervous about being near the ambassador, or we just wanted to get the ambassador moving or anything like that. The ambassador joined us in such a way that they were gonna start pivoting around, leaving fingerprints without any intervention on our part. We are going to do a delegate reject, so technically a hard tell, but I don't think SykoSloth was paying too much attention to it.
It's a hard thing to catch here, and you do make a good point about the total dissonance of the ambassador standing right next to you and then being concerned that you're too close to them. But then again, they're always forgetting their briefcase and telling awful cocktail party anecdotes. So I think we all agree the ambassador is a very silly person.
That's right.
Banana bread.
There's a contact. It's a green test, and we are going to maybe delegate in the middle of it? I don't think so.
Well, it looks like we delegated to our seduction target. I don't know if actually it's gonna finish, but
Gonna be
at
close.
least to go off, yeah. There's kind of a line in front of us. We do seem to be watching as if we think that it is going to take off. Ooh, we miss a pad, but it does not matter. Wait, okay, no,
Pilot,
that's just no.
and it's a swap and a Perlin at the same time. That puts us in the mission win countdown with 2 minutes left. The SykoSloth is either going to notice this or FireLordEthan is going to go up 2-0, and it's going to be the latter. Just like that, a rush of hard tells all at the end, except the end is halfway through the game.
You know what's so funny is that actually the fact that we didn't get there as soon as possible lined up with the Perlin a little bit better, because you want to swap
Yes.
immediately when you touch that statue. So even though of course I don't think we would choose to do the stutter step into the statue, the slight delay actually even made it even harder to notice both things at once, because SykoSloth did actually pivot around to it for a moment, and then maybe would have had a chance there, but yeah. Oh, and the reason we missed the pad is the pad positioning was over far as far to the left as you basically could be, because we wanted to make it difficult to do a quick rotation into check statue where it actually have a cost to seeing if there's a swap there right at that moment. So well sequenced out by Ethan there for sure.
Looks like 51 seconds after the delegate is the list taken. So it's not perfect, but boy, that is really cutting it close. And one of the things you can get away with there, obviously there was a little bit of a line. That's usually what kills it. But the other thing that kills it is a long walk to the bar. In this case, we were in the conversation circle closest to it, and that made all the difference, having just one person in front of us. Timed it beautifully and up 2-0 just like that. And you do not want to fall behind against the best sniper in your division. SykoSloth is going to need some spy wins at some point now. Let's see if they can get one here as Salmon on Modern in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Salmon with the one character whose clothing matches the floor.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. In the front there, which is probably among the clothing you care least about, but he does actually also match red bookshelf, which is it's the palest of the red bookshelves, I believe.
Yes.
So he actually does match that up quite nicely.
Some of those are fire engine red, kind of harkening back to the old days, but we've got kind of an Easter pastel look across the entire venue this time.
Yeah, and actually that plays into it because, like, for example, twins, they don't blend into the blue as much because it's a little bit, like you're saying, more pastel. The greens blending in a little bit more with like Irish and whatnot, like Irish's bottom rather than Irish's. What is that? What do we call little tiny sweaters like that?
A
It's got to
blouse?
be a name. Blouse?
I think it's a blouse. We're talking more about fashion and interior design than we are about espionage right now, but that's because there's not a whole lot going on. SykoSloth does have an early flirt, but it's 17%. That is very bad, but it is something. We're going to go to green bookshelves after, and the question is, why?
Yeah, and something I did, of course, like about Ethan's game is that the way in which we sequenced it out was to make sure that we hit a timing window early enough that maybe even if the swap was seen, we don't think that we're done here.
Right.
And we don't have that same kind of luxury here where we are going to take this book away. So we probably are committing to something in this, or we're just going to use it to break up the flirts because we only 17% so far.
I am a little concerned already because we have a weak flirt and we have a lot of time spent at bookshelf, and because the seduction target just left, and we are presumably bringing that book back. This feels already like the kind of game where we're going to have a lot of time pressure very soon.
Yeah, on the flip side, we don't have very many lowlights yet from Ethan. Well, actually, as I say that, Seek gets low
They've
lit.
doubled
Yeah.
from 1 to 2.
So sometimes if Spy is killing time and they don't get low lit, it's like this double whammy of they're not getting rewarded for it. The party's starting to winnow down, and they don't have progress. And so it's just going to be like this exceedingly difficult problem. But
It's
we
a book
are
cleaning.
going
Yep.
to
I mean, you spend that much time there, and you have to imagine the book is going back somewhere else. It's too much wasted time otherwise. We do get a green flirt while we're there, however. We cannot resist the temptation to increase that flirt and put the book back, but we do get a highlight for it, and this feels like a lot of trouble for SykoSloth already.
Yeah, and there's so many reasons we could have gotten highlight there for. So,
Yes.
one, transfer. Two, joining seduction target. Three, possibly walking past the briefcase when it's actually returnable. I couldn't quite tell how far away Ambassador was if it was returnable, but the fact that Boots came up and took that briefcase after us makes me think that there might have been a problem there for us. It wasn't so egregious as an instant shot, of course, but we'll see if that creates problems for them.
Yeah, with a fingerprint here, and we're watching that briefcase very closely, and it feels like basically we're looking for any excuse now to shoot, is what it feels like from the camera movement. We are keeping that glowing salmon gentleman in our view. We're rotating, but we're trying not to be too obvious about it, too, and there's about a minute left. So the question is FireLordEthan the kind of person who's going to shoot when they have any kind of reason, or are they going to wait this out?
And yeah, I think that's really going to come down to banana bread. So I actually would love to see a silent game from SykoSloth. I don't feel like we have time to really do a silent game,
No.
but I do think that if he gets this flirt, he gets the fingerprint, and there's a contact. Like there's many reasons that we could have gotten shot. Oh,
Yeah.
and
Here it
suction
comes.
target.
Suction target leaves, but we're going to throw out a contact. We have to. It's around the time you would do it. You have to hope for the sieve shot. But who would shoot a man in the back? Well, we're not about to find out just yet. We do not do any kind of contact there. We're going to try to do maybe a real one instead. And the suction target leaves again. I mean, the thing is, it doesn't matter. We were not going to finish anyway. There's a white test contact. It's happening with 15 seconds left. You got to imagine the shot's going to come off. No.
Bug.
Low
Ooh,
lights,
that's a
doesn't matter.
nice bug. I mean,
Yeah, but
OT, we've got to be the shot though.
Heartbreaking. Float is done there at the end. We're talking, and there's going to be overtime, about 6 or 7 seconds. You have to imagine FireLordEthan's going to take this shot. We're already looking at them. No, we shoot the seduction target instead, and SykoSloth snatches victory from the jaws of defeat.
That is so. Of course, we did have some luck there. Like basically, we had good luck
Yes.
except for seduction target. Seduction target was this pool of bad luck. Although seduction target at least did us the benefit of sticking around in that conversation at the end and taking that bullet. So I guess we're complaining about seduction target when they took a bullet for us. So I mean, there might be something there. The activity of seduction target running around might have made it look like they were doing a last second flirt because they went from what was it? They went from the front conversation to the back conversation, back to the front conversation, and like talked again. So it actually might have looked like who would have they been with? Maybe White Dress. You can never tell. I mean, I guess you got to figure out what the game's actually going to shake out like to see if your seduction target is really doing bad things or good things for you. Actually, it might have been us. I think actually it looked like they were seducing with us because when we got up there, seduction target started talking right after, and I think that was the flirt. And since we were always kind of around them, I think the shot was Duke on Salmon seduction target of all
Well,
things.
there is one tiny silver lining about your seduction target bailing on you. It means they're moving around a lot, and that is the kind of thing a sniper can and will notice, and in this case, they were also high-lit, and when you see people potentially flirting at bookshelves or statue pads or whatever, what you're not always confident about is who arrived there first, who followed whom is chasing whom in this relationship. In this case, it was inverted, and yeah, taking a bullet is pretty brutal. I guess that's a pretty thorough seduction that they're already willing to die for them. But, well, I guess SykoSloth and Salmon, just that smooth. We are not going anywhere. We're still on Modern. And it's going to be a spy game here as Kane, Flame Emperor Ethan in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And that's also just a huge game where that is going to give us opportunities to think about this set as a possible win. Because like if we're just going to take this normal and we're going to go down 3-1, where if we lose a spy game but we are able to come back on sniper and we come down 3-1, but we still haven't proven ourselves as being able to break the sniper of Ethan yet.
Right.
That game, though messy, proved that it was possible, and like it gives a SykoSloth a kind of an in on maybe some potential weaknesses in Ethan's game.
Absolutely. We don't now. We can basically, snipe our way into a competitive match the rest of the way after falling behind early. And you're right, getting that spy win. That's the thing we were looking for. Is Ethan Sniper going to crack at all? On the other hand, there was a weird mix of some bad luck and misplay early on, followed by good play and good luck late. You cannot count on that again. So you need to figure I got away with one a little bit there. and you're going to need to be a little better next time because you cannot count on that again. We do pick up a highlight here for statue inspects. We have a standard 34% flirt. We're going to play it nice and easy because we can't two flirt anyway. We're going to stand mostly across from our seduction target, who is Wheels.
Yeah, it's going to be a distant flirt, and so I'm assuming we're not. Well, I mean, I guess modernity it is just good to throw in those simultaneous finishes, kind of mid game. So we might see something kind of similar in that vein. Um, we could so Psycho bugged both games. It just kind of ended up that way. I don't think Psycho necessarily planned on doing bug either of those games. In both of them, Ambassador came to us. And then we kind of took that opportunity. Just in the second one, we just were able to execute on that opportunity so much better. Usually, bug is in the mix. Oh, oh, oh! I
Oh
don't know if that
boy.
was
Are
that
we
was a
doing
big
this
zoom.
again? The seduction target again? They do leave and they get flashed on right away. They do have a highlight, and we are low lit. Oh my god, I think we
This,
might have phantomed something.
no, exactly, no. I don't know what the phantom is because uh, uh, we were at microfilm when the initial highlight happened. Um, you would imagine it's a swap, right? You would just all else equal, it's got to be a swap.
Oh, contact and our highlight Wheels is alone in conversation. Ethan has no, and we get the low light
You're
there.
gonna be
And,
mad. They're
and
coming
now they're
back.
all getting brought back up. This is absolutely tragic. Horrible luck, horrible timing. Oh no.
But we're one of the only people that haven't gotten brought back up because we were in motion,
That
like
is
soon enough
crazy.
after.
That is absolutely crazy. The swings in this game, and by the way, fingerprint, the best possible thing you can do if you're low lit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that we're not getting brought back up right now from just like being a statue visitor, because
Just
that's
for
pretty
set,
common.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, that would be a sort of rethinking. Like, hey, I had my top suspect. I was waiting around for them to do something, and then they were immediately eliminated. At that point, you might say, scrap the entire plan, bring everyone back up to neutral, and hope for the best. But no, we make a few judgment calls. This is a lot more judgment than you probably want to be making a sniper to right now. These highlights and lowlights cannot be confident, and they're not going to feel too confident after this either, because in about 6 seconds, FireLordEthan is going to take another spy win.
Yeah, and it's funny because once again, we're gonna go to I wasn't sure if we're gonna do yeah, we're gonna go for a five mission last second bug right there. So our seduction target ends up being again in the mix very heavily this game because Wheels. I actually do want to see
I
if we
think
can.
I think this has to be Purloin. It happens several seconds after Wheels leaves the bar.
Yeah, but can't we see that the list
I
is
mean,
there?
I mean, look, you'd expect so, and yet, there are only so many explanations here. Yeah, there we go. Oh boy, sudden leave, I guess, and that's all it takes sometimes. You do see that sometimes too when someone, if they mistakenly see, for example, an aggressive book put back, right? They'll assume that's either the spy or someone has forced them to do it through delegate or something like that. They think they see an animation break and they try to infer something from it. It is obviously if you catch it, it's massive. It basically wins you the game. But when you're wrong, this is what happens.
Yeah, so it looks like that's a strange game. So it'll look like um Rocker red flirted wheels, and then that's why it's wheels and Rocker that stay in there because
Yeah.
we think that one of them. That is a wild game, and but still, you're so right that like just probability wise, Wheels was one of the only people. That's not totally true. There's a handful of people in there, but like one of four
Hmm.
ish AI that weren't in on the
And
contact.
they were in conversation, but they were alone reading. They were that person at the party reading a book, not talking to anyone, and it saved their life. Wow. 3-1, FireLordEthan. So SykoSloth gets that much needed spy win, that huge answer at the end of the game with a little double whammy with the missions, the bug, and they finish the flirt and everything. And yet, FireLordEthan steals it right back and goes up 3-1 after Modern. And we are going to move on now to Gallery. SykoSloth playing as Green Dress in 3, 2, 1, playing it. We are right back in the same position we just were, desperately needing a spy win.
Yeah, and of course that was one of the things, one of the games where the spy was playing a very different game than the sniper. Like they just thought the situation was entirely different. Where the way in which Psycho had a chance of coming back was, it looked like kind of just like doing a hardtail. Because like if you start falling behind and you feel like, okay, I actually just completely misread this. I thought that 100% had to be this person, and I wasn't paying attention to anything else, and now I know for sure it wasn't that person Like, what do you do? Do you just like kind of like shoot someone that's finishing soft tails, etc.? I think it's the right call because the
Yeah.
spy has no way to know that you're that far behind. That you just like hope they do a hard tell, and they hope they think it's a normal game that they have to do
Yes.
one.
I think you need to sell out on a couple things there, but the real question is always when you realize that your theory of the game is wrong, do you start over? And if so, how? And they decided not really to. They just kind of brought a few people up and hoped for the best. And unfortunately, the spy was not one of those people. And the spy played a very cautious, low light friendly kind of game too, which is not always the case. SykoSloth with a green flirt early as a green dress after being a green bookshelves. We're halfway done, and we know the flirt is a big deal on gallery.
Yeah, and especially if there's been pacing issues. So in both of those games, we had a little bit of slowness. I feel like we're hanging out here, hoping to get a contact. It's not gonna get that much better. Well, I say that. Oh, nope, nope, it's not gonna get that much better. The
No.
SDA is going to green bookshelf. The back conversation is not really filling up as much as we want it to be. So we're just burning time in this front combo, and we're not even take the contact after.
No, you're hoping a couple more people get in. You're probably doing that thing I always mentally do is every time I join, I think, I want one more, maybe two. And if I get one more or two, I just go for it. But in this case, I think it got worse rather than better. Certainly did not improve much. We're going to get inspects here. Interesting that we're doing let's say back towards the sniper statues. I don't have a good name for it, but that's always an option for a late swap, for example. So sometimes if you're specifically not planning on swapping and you don't want to get shot for the inspects at the end, for example. You don't want them to be paranoid and take a shot at you. You'll do back facing to the sniper on the first set of inspects.
Yeah, we might have the opportunity to do a back facing if we want to do a fingerprint. So there's a nice juicy fingerprint that's gonna be at that statue, and if nobody takes it for a long time, we get another fingerprint somewhere else. Try to do it. Of course, that statue also can have a ton of scrutiny on it for whoever grabs it, so probably gonna be pretty closely guarded.
Ooh,
And
green
we're not
purloin.
really. Oh, you're right.
And then we're going to take as well. We're going to try the green purloin and then take maneuver. And it's all going to depend on whether or not FireLordEthan A sees this fade and B is confident of it. There's a possibly quick reject from Kane. This could be very good very soon. And here in the back of the venue, it's going to be very hard to see this fade potentially. Offered to Pencil Stash. A reject there too. This could not be going better except for the part where we only have 1 minute left. But will this induce a shot? One of the twins offered. Another reject. Less than 1 minute left. This is going to be quite a chain. And I don't think there's any reason to think we're part of it.
Yeah, we do actually still have to get the other pieces done.
Ambassador
Ambassador
takes.
finally takes.
And we're going to take lowlights come out, and we're one of them.
Run.
It works completely, but can we finish? It's going to have to be inspect and something else with 43 seconds left. We don't have contact done. This is narrowed way, way down, and one of those people is at statues with their back to the sniper, like we were describing before. If they don't get a good look at the statue, they're going to have to take a shot out of pure paranoia. 30 seconds left. Very hard to see, but they do clock the statue. They are confident. 25 seconds left. We need one more mission. Is it going to be contact? There's a suspected double agent here. It's going to be a briefcase, but we only have one fingerprint. We have to bug when we return this. This is the only way. The other suspects are not doing anything. The ambassador's moving. We have to stop. We're going to have to rush the ambassador right now. This is falling apart. Spy low lit again, but will they win this time? They're right on the camera. Here comes the bug. It's not visible, but there's going to be so much overtime. 7 seconds left. Can we figure it out? No! It's going to be Pencil Stash, and wow, SykoSloth answers again.
It was almost a wrong shot on us. My heart stopped when we were hovering over that. Where it's like, is he really gonna just take that random of a shot? I will say, like I was worried about the choice, right? But the way in which we approached that bug, I will say I do like that we buried ourselves in that, like that we really put ourselves far forward so that there wasn't an arm that was visible. Now, of course, we were leaning into the idea that we could have been a low light, right? Like, so there might be some people be like, well, we had to be a low light, we got lucky, etc. Well, that is the part of the purloin. We actually went all in that we were either highlight or we were either dead or low lit. That was kind of like the outcome of that purloin, that maneuver. So it actually does make sense that we did go for something kind of strange and aggressive and counter to normal play because we did really lean into that. So it looked a bit weird, but it does match up.
Yes, we talk about this a lot. Incidental lowlights the spy rather, could not guess have happened versus the ones that you are maybe trying to get or could conceivably guess might have happened. The whole point of that maneuver is to maybe get lowlit or at least reduce suspicion on you. So you see the aggression there late in the game. It is consistent with I'm going to assume I'm lowlit. If I'm not, I was dead anyway, and if I am, this is much more likely to work. So things like aggressive bugs during briefcase returns can work. So I think you see a lot of good intentionality there, a kind of high risk reward maneuver. But you do see the opposite a lot where people will take that maneuver and then not cash in on it. They'll still behave like they're neutral lit or high lit, and it doesn't really make sense. It's very dissonant. In this case, you saw SykoSloth try something and then follow up on it in a very logical way.
Absolutely. Well done there, and especially like we were talking about the kind of sniper dominance in Ruby so far, and especially of Ethan. So far, they've been able to throw pretty good blows at each other's games. Now, the SykoSloth loss on Modern was just kind of like a kind of fluky that they thought about the that Wheels was like a runaway from Red Flirt, but
Yeah.
still I mean, I guess that's still showing cracks in it for sure. So very interesting set so far, and very different than I thought it was going to be coming into it.
I mean, if you told SykoSloth they were going to win two of their first three spy games, they'd probably think, well, I guess I'm going to win Ruby. But here we are, FireLordEthan getting it done on both ends to kind of counteract. It hasn't been the sniper like we expected, but the spies have been on point, or the snipers have been flawed, depending on how you want to look at it. It feels like a little bit of both to me. But FireLordEthan answered once before. They're going to try to do it again as Orange Dress on Gallery in 3, 2, 1, playing it. This is a bold choice, Cotton, one of the slowest characters on one of the longest venues.
Yes, and also like the some of the strengths of the bug are reduced relative to other characters. Where do we get that flirt? We do get that flirt. Very lovely there.
Huge.
Um, so sometimes, sorry, big popular choice on some maps where bug is a little bit trickier to get, and really she's one of the best at it. Are we going to try to do anything crazy here? I don't think we're really an early purloin type. We are not indeed. We're going to sip this and just look for a seduction target.
This lemonade, as it turns out, very summery, very seasonally appropriate. You mentioned one of the best at bugging. That is true, but it is specifically standing bugs and reverse drive-bys and things like that, and you do not have many opportunities for those on Gallery. You have one prime spot in the back that snipers are very suspicious of, but you have way more opportunities on, let's say, Ballroom.
Yeah, and also she doesn't stand out that much. Like those that spot, kind of most spies are kind of good at it. So it's not like she's much
Yes.
better than other
Yeah.
ones where she's actually significantly better. Like a ballroom, she's very
Yeah.
good. Like she
Yeah.
stands out as a great booger on ballroom and not so much
Absolutely.
gallery.
So basically, this is kind of a double whammy. Her primary advantage, there's a contact right there, and it looks like a green, some low lights coming off. Her primary advantage on bug is largely mitigated by gallery, and her lack of speed is amplified as a problem on gallery. So this is a very, very tricky choice. But if your opponent is going to credit that sort of thing, maybe you can fish for a low light. Speaking of bugs, oh no, there's a lemonade in our left hand.
Yeah, and so I think we're just gonna, well, obviously we're just gonna like sip here. So this is interesting that when we were talking about like the slowness, we do finish contact and seduce really early, and so now except for ambassador, so either bugs or fingerprints, we all of the rest of our targets are more or less stationary. Like Toby kind of stays in the same spot for once, and on gallery, he's more static on this map than
Yep.
pretty much any besides balcony.
Inspect swap
Um,
right here. Inspect swap right here. Finish early. Oh no, we saw that happen with 2 minutes on Modern. You remember, two soft tails and then two hard tails. Boom, boom, and it was just too early to have finished was the idea. And I wondered if we were going to get the same thing right here, but no. Ethan is going to draw this out a little more.
yeah, and we are.
Sort of.
Ooh.
Green purloin, walk away. Where are we going to end up? We want to get far away from the scene of the crime? It doesn't matter because Toby's headed that way too. We're actually staying close to the crime now.
And we have the opportunity to do like a request and like a little bit of a reset here before we do it. We opt not to do it. This is actually really nice because Toby's offering to a bunch of people
Uh-oh, ambassador taking
Cambridge.
though. And there's the fade. And are we going to get shot here? Because we are finishing up statues, and I think we're the only person who could be done with inspects. 5 seconds left. No indication from SykoSloth that a shot is coming, though. And oh my goodness, another spy win for Lava King Ethan.
Yeah, and similar in the sense of we're finishing two things at once, and Psycho is still like parsing out what was happening there. I'm curious if we would have been better off with anybody but Ambassador taking. I don't actually see a strong reaction. Like it was very on screen the purloin, but it didn't seem like there was a response really there. So I think we just missed it entirely. And again, that's in a 10-second window, you miss half of it even, and the game's going to be over.
Yeah, no, very true. And there are two minds of the whole cast taking purloins kind of thing. On one hand, obviously, you know they're not the spy. But on the other hand, if the sniper's pretty good at catching fades, if you're not already going to credit that kind of thing, you do get this thing where sometimes because a cast member is doing something, you don't look at it right away. You don't look at it as closely. It kind of fades into the background because subconsciously you know this is not going to be the spy taking the guest list. And when it's the final mission, those few extra seconds can make all the difference. It is now 4-2 FireLordEthan on the strength of a ton of spy wins on both sides. Multiple spy wins already, but FireLordEthan still coming out on top, just not at all the way I think anyone expected. SykoSloth has to answer again and again on gallery as Leopard in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah,
And we've seen
and
those early flirts have been key in both of these last two games. Let's see if we get another one.
I actually don't think I've ever put together how small those yellow paintings are. They are tiny. They're tiny and they have their own pad. The pads are bigger than the paintings. Those little ones.
I think the paintings were on the floor and they just traced them like chalk outlines for murder victims, and then they just put them right up in front. Yeah, it's the relative size too of the ones next to them.
I also like that the appropriate distance from these three identical blue paintings, the distance to look at the middle one is a little bit further back to really appreciate the one in the middle. I guess you can kind of see all three at once if you stand in the middle of those three paintings.
So they're basically telling you this one's meant to be viewed from 3.4 feet.
Right.
There's some textural differences there that we can't possibly appreciate as Luddites through computer screens.
I actually like. I know there's a game going on. There's not much happening. I actually legitimately don't know what Checker was thinking with the different pads. Like because there's not really a reason for. If anything, the pad in the back. That's sorry. The pad in the middle that is
Mhm.
nearest the statue. You think would be kind of crowded out away from the statue. I guess maybe it's so that everybody's standing in a different line,
Yes,
and
I
that
think
one
that's
is
exactly
like,
it. So
yeah,
look behind the green shelf. They kind of stagger outwards in a nice natural pattern. It's not perfectly equidistant, right? But it creates more obfuscations, different
right.
lanes, so to speak. And it also means that you can't walk straight from one pad to another easily. So that would be a little too simple, I guess, for spy pathing.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like just because the pads are smaller on the left hand side, there's just fewer there's like just the less activity on the left hand side of the map on gallery.
Yeah.
So you don't see that a lot. Okay, we finally do have some activity, by the way. The second flirt has now happened. We're at 69%. Um, but by the setup of of how they kind of stand and whatnot, it's funny because I actually feel like the intent of the scattered of the pads was to create a little like offset standing positions to increase obfuscation of the left side of green bookcase. But I feel like actually that just happens naturally on the right hand side because in the big pads, AI
Yes.
just choose different spots.
More people gather too. Yeah. Well, I do like the logic of the big paintings get big pads because there's more room for people to look at the same painting and discuss it as someone might. But on the left, they're a little smaller, so only room for one at a time. Only one person is allowed to look at this big color square at one time. That's how it's meant to be viewed.
I was trying to figure out in my head if I thought you're the kind of person that would talk to someone about a painting in a
A
museum
stranger?
or not.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
not at all. In fact, very few people are.
All right, we have a fake coming off here because we have to do something. I mean, it lets off a lot of lowlights. I
A
mean,
lot.
maybe, but of course, when you do that, it does maybe increase the scrutiny on the remaining people. So
Yes.
I have a feeling that this is just gonna. Oh, I mean, we don't do anything with the purloin. I thought it was gonna be a swap or a purloin play and just try to get someone shot right, kind of like play against type and just go for a complete timeout kind of game. But it doesn't seem to be the plan.
The only people who talk to each other in galleries when they don't know each other already are in romantic comedies. Everyone else looks like a psychopath, I'm afraid. Or a SykoSloth. We still only have 69% on the flirt. We have nothing else. We have 23 seconds. I think we're just going to try to get a good contact and hope for the best. But there's not even an SDA in conversation. They're both out, so it's not going to induce a shot. And this is sure just feeling like a timeout or some rush at the end. We can't even rush for a time ad, though. There's no point in doing anything. You got to do a fake, and we know that's probably not going to work.
Now, and at this point, like even though the game is over, committing to a timeout at this point is probably better. I don't quite get the non-purloin, why we would reset and take a drink. So like taking a drink only resets the reject chain. It's only gonna decrease the amount of paranoia on the behalf of the sniper.
Yes.
So it's good in the sense of you try to blend in the background. You can kind of like reset the sniper's attention. So yeah, I don't know the theory of that one.
I think it's just one of those games that doesn't come together and we just decide not to do anything. But you're right, there is a little bit of sort of investment in future games, being able to show a willingness to time out. It makes sense in the first half of the match, a lot more in the second. And speaking of first half, this is a best of 18, first to 10. And that means that Blaze Baron Ethan is halfway there and has a chance to add to the lead right now as Seek on gallery in 3, 2, 1, playing it. And the height of the character does come into play on a few venues, and I would say gallery, since it's sort of sloped downward like this, is one of them.
Yeah, and you can see the head turn a little bit easier. You can also just see like you track them easier, or sometimes actually with the number of people in a relatively low like bandwidth of sight. Sometimes you just like lose track of like where they've gone if they're jumping back and forth between multiple pads trying to flirt,
Hmm.
if they're jumping back and forth between pads and conversation circles. Like the easiest way to track someone on this venue is seeing if they are going to a place like statues or if they're switching between inside and outside. Other than that, you don't see them as much as so tall characters sometimes naturally easy to kind of track where their movements are in the back.
We do get an early fingerprint, interesting little investment there, and we track our seduction target down out front and get a green flirt before they leave. And this is completely off screen because SykoSloth was completely zoomed in the entire time. So this is actually a very strong opening from Ethan.
Yeah, strong and has shown that they'll do something with their fast, quick openings, right?
Yes.
So that they're probably not going to. They seem to tend not to because like sometimes people have a fast opening and they're like, great, I have enough time to actively idle or do something like that, right? Try
Hmm.
to demonstrate to the sniper that I'm not trying to finish and stuff like that. Which sometimes can bite them if there's not the party luck, there's not the kind of fingerprints they need, etc. It seems like we like to keep the pace up kind of consistently after we get those fast starts and not really ever like let up.
No, you're absolutely right. It's a lot easier to start fast than to finish strong, and a lot of spies struggle with that over time. But we have not seen that from Ethan. We've seen steady progress throughout, hard soft tells early, if that makes sense, going hard at the soft tells, but then also following up with hard tells in quick succession at the end of the game, bunching them together well, timing them well. The seduce is done, by the way, and our seduction target left already, so we're not going to be flirt paired at all. We're going to take a green contact, and it's not a bad one. We're going to let off 3 or 4 lowlights. Let's see how many SykoSloth gets. To their credit, SykoSloth gets all of them, but that is a pretty good trade, especially with that fingerprint already in pocket. We're going to take a drink here, and I think we've kind of earned it given how much we've done already, so we can afford to do this.
Yeah, and that's the kind of like where that drink take makes sense because we are going to be trying to get them to not really consider us to be going after the rest of these soft tails like the fingerprints that are becoming. There is going to be a fingerprint and green bookshelf. I mean, we're not going to be able to go for that anytime soon. It looks like it's going to be gone by the time we try to go for it because we have this drink in hand. Not really sure we want that kind of fingerprint anyways. We do still have to, of course, consider what our last mission is going to be. Unless there's a fingerprint here, it looks like it's going to be 4 soft tails as the idea.
I think that's the idea. We're probably really, really hoping that a fingerprint ends up on one of those other 2 statues. That's a bit of a risk, though, with only 1 minute left. There's the... Oh, I'm sorry. There's a fingerprint right there. Oh, my goodness. I totally missed it. And just like that, we're at 4. And we're going to put this down and say, no, I'm not swapping. Oh, no. We get shot during the final animation anyway. And SykoSloth avoids falling into a massive hole.
A very good response from Psycho because it looks like some players like to switch up the way in which they beat opponent, but some players, I really think of Yeesh often when I think of this. If they beat you in one way, they will keep doing that over and over again until you prove them wrong. And Fire Ethan was saying like, I'm just gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep throwing
Yes.
away, or sorry, throwing real not like super. This wasn't a super really finish. We're at 48 seconds, but I'm going to throw kind of simultaneously doubling up mission wins at you and make you shoot. And
Yes.
finally, we're able to actually do that. We spend a lot of effort trying to see it, even though there's tons of suspects still in the party. We focus in and make sure we see that swap, and we recognize the threat based on what we've seen so far. So great adaptation from SykoSloth there.
I mean, it's an interesting choice from Ethan, basically, because you could just soft tell your way to victory at that point. You have fingerprints, and one of them was difficult, so it might not have been caught, right? And the other one was at the very beginning of the game. That is probably the hardest fingerprint combination to catch. Early on, and then minutes later, a difficult that you happen to hit. That is very hard to credit or shoot for, but you would be going statue to statue in the final minute. So the question is, which is more suspicious? And Ethan goes all in on the quick hard tell instead. Of course, playing with a lead helps with that aggression a little bit, but SykoSloth does answer and keeps this match within reach. A 6-2 deficit, I just don't see how you come back from that the way Ethan's playing right now, but 5-3, much more doable. And we are done with Gallery. We are on to Courtyard, and it is SykoSloth as Orange Dress in 3-2-1 playing it. I know it's a sorry. I just say dress out of habit.
Yeah, no, it's like the thing is like that habit is now. I think there has been longer. Orange Sari is has a longer history now than Orange Dress,
Good
but
point.
it doesn't matter. It got there first. Old habits, dying
Yeah,
hard,
it's a
etc.
different kind of history, is the first rather than the longest. Not always the
That's
same thing.
yeah.
There's a green flirt with Red Dress, who we can definitely call Red Dress.
All right, so the courtyard looks. The openings are usually pretty similar. And we are going to go to relatively early inspect. I'd say a lot of spies. I actually kind of like this, especially given. Ooh, well, the red test shouldn't matter. Okay, as long as Queen didn't go grab the other statue, I think we'll have enough time to grab the second inspect, or we can just come back later. Honestly, we are gonna break animation. I actually misspoke, but luckily, Ethan, not really paying attention to us at that point, and it's just gonna look like a normal statue visit.
Yeah, we're rotating because both Toby and the Ambassador are on the other side of the venue, so we actually have a lot of cover if we wanted to get up to some more shenanigans, but we do not. Just the red test, and Ruby does literally mean red, so we probably should have expected this. We're going to hope for more emerald tests in the future, though. We are joined now with the actual double agent, and ooh, a little flash from FireLordEthan could have meant a million things. We do have another person at statues here. There's the flirt. It's a white, unfortunately, 83%, but we have a lot of time left, and this is all pretty standard for Courtyard.
Yeah, and we can choose to take this contact. Let's look at the contact. It's all right. If Wheels gets into the conversation circle, there's only be one. The DA being one of the only people out. Ooh, some good bounces there. We're gonna pick up a low light. We're gonna. Well, they're only gonna be real for this conversation circle. So even though there's only two people out, one of them is the double agent. So
Wow.
oh,
That's all it took. It was just, I don't think this is fake. I think they might have had a little suspicion based on that early statue visit in retrospect, but also just not a good contact. On paper, from the spy's perspective, a very reasonable contact, but for the sniper, absolutely valuable.
and I'm trying to see what it is because like the thing that I see is that our exit from statue uh, is bad, but there
Hmm.
must have been a pathing thing that like, 2 minutes and 4 seconds is what we're being told. Um, okay, so the yeah, we do have a
That's
bounce
very awkward.
on. Yeah. Okay, so that was the moment of the flash as well. It didn't look that bad, but then again, it didn't look that bad if there was a person that was moving at the time. But
Right.
yeah, there
Well,
was no initiation.
and we were already high lit, and there wasn't anything really happening, so we happened to see it, and at that point, the contact more than enough, and that's the sniper. That's the Ethan sniper that we were talking about right there.
Absolutely. So too bad there. We were still going to be in trouble. So at least you can feel a little bit better that you didn't throw away like a very winnable, like an obviously winnable game, because we were probably going to think there was a lot of other people out there with contact credit, but we were going to be like one of like two people that were not low lit in that conversation circle that had contact at that point, and we were probably going to play out the rest of it like there was other threats on the venue, and that wasn't going to be the case.
6-3 now for Scorching Prince Ethan, who plays as Salmon on Courtyard, trying to pull away here in 3-2-1 planet.
I would love to accuse you of having pre-written all these down, but that would only feed your ego. And I know
No
for a
comment.
fact you haven't.
I don't know. No comment. Synonyms are fun.
Immediate swap.
Immediate swap. Ethan is not backing off after getting caught last game for an aggressive swap. We go more aggressive this time, but it is an all or nothing maneuver. It's if they are not positive I did this, they're going to be in big trouble. And all the low lights, SykoSloth looking pretty darn positive to me.
Yes, very good response in there, and it was a straight gambit. I'm actually surprised that we caught that so quickly, and also we left statue very quickly, right? Like just in general. And Ethan can tell from the laser movement that this is not good. The laser just looks too excited. Like it should almost like get wider when the laser is just interested in what's going on. Although I will say, there's a lot of deliberation around Seek and Wheels. No, we can't have believed it was a green swap, right?
Probably not, but this is the thing, right? You're going to second guess yourself, and you have a chance to when nothing is going on and you've already narrowed the party down. You have this sort of, hey, the only way I blow this is by being too confident. So you've got your top suspect, but it doesn't really hurt much to leave a couple of neutrals out there too.
Right. And honestly, also Psycho got burned by a party narrowing on Modern, and so they might be a little shy about trying to commit to it too hard because of
Light
what they
shy.
had last time. Right.
Very true. You got to learn from that as the match goes on. I honestly think having a good game plan, look, I love it, but especially in a longer set like this, the ability to switch it up in the middle based on what is or isn't happening is a huge part of success. FireLordEthan with a potentially awkward path there, I think, into statues. We're going to try to get inspects done here, and if we don't get shot for this, it's a big test. This is one of two possible cues to confirm that this is the spy. The other was contact, and we're not even going to let it get that far, and SykoSloth is going to stay within range here.
I kind of like that as a test because let's say Ambassador was kind of near us, and like you could maybe trick yourself into believing something could have happened there. And if you're that sure, it kind of actually makes sense to shoot regardless, even if you were really pretty sure about the count. Maybe somehow you missed a bug, and if you thought it was a swap, like you're dead anyway. So even though we still had another seduction and another whole mission after that, I like that shot.
It's a form of psychological protection. I think we've all had games where we were completely zeroed in on someone, our mission count was off, and the only person we had any intention of shooting still finished missions right in front of us. And there is no worse feeling than that. So I'm a big fan of the first moment they could conceivably be done when you are that suspicious taking the shot.
Absolutely.
So on to Terrace now. Not the best place for a comeback if you're SykoSloth, but you don't need much of one either. You have managed somehow to hold serve against the division's top sniper here in Ruby. You're down only 2 games. That's another way of saying just one spy win away from evening it back up potentially. If you take care of business on the other side of the rifle, it's going to be SykoSloth on Terrace as Cowboy in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And what's our magic number? Is it
10.
10? 10. There we go.
It is 10. Best of 18.
I thought you legitimately said N and that you were just refusing my question.
Yeah, N minus, yeah, X. Find for X, Slappy. Let's do live math. I don't think anybody wants that.
No, they don't, and especially not anyone I work with, where ostensibly I should be good at math. All right, we're gonna pick up a early potential here for delegate. This would be an interesting test here. I don't think we've seen we saw a delegate from Ethan. I don't think we've seen a delegate yet from SykoSloth. Oh wait, no. Who won the delegate? No, that was Ethan, the delegate to Danger and doing a swap at the same time.
So this is very interesting. You see Salmon get an early low light for going to bar. Just a behavioral thing. I will say, though, that low lights matter a lot more on, let's say, balcony or terrace, because you can keep watching them, you can bring people back up. It's a lot less to watch, but an interesting choice there. Could be several things, but it just seems like a behavioral choice, I would say. Maybe they really like to path. You never really know for sure with these little kind of sorcerer snipers, as I like to call them.
Yeah, now we're in the classic kind of stage of Terrace where we just kind of hang out and then see what the party kind of gives us. We do have the ability to throw in a decent contact here. We do have one person out that's meaningful. I don't actually mind us just taking it because the other thing with taking early contact on Terrace, especially, you just leave yourself open to the ability to throw in a fake later if you want.
Yes.
If you really want to spread out that credit, anyways, like one person being out, like of course it's like reflexive if nobody meaningful is out
Yes.
of conversation circle. But anyways, we just have fewer options, and it kind of comes at no cost.
I would go as far as to say is that two contacts on Terrace at this point is close to standard. It is kind of the default move, and it's a little surprising and weird when a fairly good player doesn't do it.
At least should be in there and get considered
Right.
when we have something else. Okay, we are gonna fake. So this is an example where we take a. I guess we Duke was already Lilith, so
Yep.
it's kind of equivalent. But we
Well,
take the
we
fake
don't know
first.
that probably, but that is the question, right? Do you fake first or do you real first? That is the mind game that people talk about, I think, the most here.
Right. And then okay, so now here's the conversation circle change. You actually should contact. Well, I mean, like maybe wait
Yes.
until
Oh,
Steve is in.
99% in the flirt with the white test, and you're right. The double agent coming to you is the ideal scenario here when you can contact twice without moving.
Right, and it makes it like even if you had a reel that first time, a spy in the other conversation circle also goes for that contact. Oh
Oh
no!
no, it is a ruby red test for SykoSloth, and not that we had a lot of ways to victory anyway, but we just made it way too easy on FireLordEthan.
That is a bummer. I mean, we were still in a decent amount of trouble there. We had to do that contact. Um, we still had to do the flirt, and then probably bug since it worked the previous time. We had to rush in an ending, but yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. And again, because we like I don't want to harp on it too much, but Terrace don't have that much time. Like, not only do you need to just throw off those contacts, it's just going to throw off your pacing because if you're going to do two contacts, four flirts, and something else, Terrace is not that long of a venue.
No, it's really not, and SykoSloth might not be long for this world here, now down 7-4 and desperately needing to keep pace again. It seems every sniper game is not a chance to get even, catch up, anything. It's just a chance to keep pace, but we are running out of opportunities even for that FireLordEthan as Kane on Terrace in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And
And
you know
if you're
what?
FireLordEthan, you would just keep up the aggression here, I think, with a lead and given the way
Well,
you've been playing. And there's a bug
there's
immediately as I say it, and we've either gotten away with this and we've won, or we're dead.
I think we're gonna have a statue race. Irish is gonna beat us. Yes, we actually. You know what's so funny about that? Ethan didn't know if they were gonna win that race or not. They legitimately didn't know. Oh, they got a highlight. Oh, this would be so funny
To
if
catch them for
if we
some kind of
pitched them.
etiquette thing after missing a bug.
Yeah, because just to like talk myself through that, it is really hard to tell who's going to pick the statue up because we finished drink first, but our animation is slower.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think we started animation first, but Iris still beat us. And because we didn't know if we were going to be the first one that had to leave or not, we actually waited until the statue was picked up, recognized it, and then walked away. And so there's a little bit of a lag there. Oh my god, if we
Oh
lose, I
man.
mean, the thing is, the mission count's gonna be off regardless. So I still think
Yeah.
that Ethan is odds-on favorite to win this. But what a way to lose
Well,
if we do.
one of the biggest ways you lose is not hitting this green test. As much as Ethan might want to leave and come back and be aggressive, with that first green test and a green contact, we're just going to wait for the timer. There it is, and there's the seduce. Are we going to get shot for this? This would be an incredible shot for SykoSloth. 3 seconds left. Do we take it? We do not, and the early bug, the aggression on hardtails again for Ethan, pays off.
I want to see that bug again. I want to see how fast we had to be on our reactions to that. Actually, looking back at it, I thought it was a near invisible bug, but actually, we do see the beginning of the arm there. But
Yes.
it's Terrace, and so it's tough. And Queen, such a useful
Such a
spin by
bro.
Queen. Yeah, exactly.
What a
Uh,
wing woman.
Right. So we might have been in trouble there, but of course we were in a type of trouble where the mission count was still going to be off, and so even if we were top suspect, we get to wait because Terrace you can so easily stay on top of threat tracking that why shoot early, right? So uh, well done on PsychoSoft for finding a potential in there where if you just have an invisible bug, that's a lost game on Terrace.
Right.
You just will lose.
Yes.
But of course, well done on Ethan's part to just take that stab early.
I am going to critique this just a little bit. You can see a lot of zooming in and out during the time of chaos, and I think there are very few circumstances where that is advisable. You can make an argument for zooming in, to get a better look at something, but I don't think there's any reason to zoom in and out in the first several seconds while the collisions are still happening. And the bug happens as we are zooming back out. It is that much harder to catch these things when the view itself is changing, as we like to say. If you time a bug to when the sniper is zooming in or out, they are much more likely to miss it.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point because you're either choosing the specificity of guarding a particular thing, like usually bug in time of
Yes.
chaos, or
Or,
you are seeing like the party and seeing like it's anyone doing something crazy like who's at windows, who's at bar, who's at
yes,
statues, that kind of thing.
exactly. And we did not zoom in long enough to protect the bug. So, like, why zoom in at all at that point is the basic thing.
Right.
Either one can be justified, but I don't think there's any version where you want to go in, out real quick in the first couple seconds while that giant mosh pit in the center of Terrace is still happening. And now that is something they really could not afford. SykoSloth now, look, I don't say must win if it's not must win, but we're getting pretty freaking close to must win. SykoSloth as the spy on Ballroom, going to be Plane Twin in 3, 2, 1, playing it. You don't need it, but let's be realistic. You need it.
Yes, no, absolutely, and also just again, it's kind of like a proof here where, again, SykoSloth has gotten a fair amount of spy wins against Ethan. Like I think if uh uh what was oh, we're gonna go for a
There's an
pretty
early
bold
bug
bug.
and say, hey, if it works for you, maybe it'll work for me. And you're right, though. SykoSloth has been playing a very good, confident spy. A little help here and there from the party, but also some bad luck to mix with it. So it's all just been on, the sniper not keeping pace, Ethan's aggression paying off. SykoSloth, though, has been so close to catching up that just has not been able to cash it in on the sniper side. But you got to admire that with their back against the wall here, they are still keeping the pressure on.
Yes, and actually, like it's the kind of bug where it's like a I don't know why Ambassador loves that position so much, but they just like seem to hang out in the back conversation circle with their back to the statues. They just seem to like it a lot, and so it's a very clear like opportunity, and that
And
you
we're
can
low
get
lit.
suspected. Oh, what did we
We're
get
low lit
that
for
for?
wasting time at bookshelves afterwards. So we have thought this through very well. We have taken the bug, and because the bug gives us an early lead, especially on a place like Ballroom, which is very small and mission dense, we figure we can waste time at bookshelves right afterwards. And not only does it stop us from accruing suspicion for the bug, it actually garners us a low light. And if we play this smart, we could be in very good position to stay alive.
Yeah, and the thing is because we had that early bug, and because we have to kind of assume that it wasn't there, we should still be keeping up pace. Where sometimes, like if you have an early purloin and you're worried about trying to stand out too much from the pack, look
You
like you're trying to
turtle. You
finish.
just totally
Exactly.
turtle. Yeah.
You're
And
out.
you hope that a civilian shot will come off because there's been a purloin the whole game. And I get it. I've done it. And it's not even that ridiculous. But it is the kind of thing that will hurt you when you're low lit. If you get the early bug, you operate under the premise that you've gotten away with it. You're going to be looking for clean, soft tail finishes. The only problem is we are wasting a lot of time now. And bug doesn't leave a trace. So this can't be a civ shot thing. You have to be thinking about how to finish. And right now, we're doing a lot of thinking as distinct from acting.
Yeah, and it seems like we have a particular sequence in mind that we want to do a
I would hope
flirt and
so.
then inspect. Ooh,
I would hope so, but is this going to be like the modern game, or is it going to be like the modern game we thought was going to be, which is to say, wasting too much time early on and it doesn't come together at the end? We're going to need a little help from the party if this one's going to work.
yeah, and we're focused way too much on getting the seduce on in this for sure. Like it's becoming a problem now. So now we're kind of like we're doing a different kind of waiting. We're waiting for the conversations to get better for this double agent, but they're really
We don't
not good right
We
now.
don't
Actually,
have time. We burned all this time already. We're going to have to purloin after this. There's 35 seconds left. We know Ethan is zooming in on the purloin, watching it very closely. They did when the other twin took a drink. And we're going to offer to the ambassador next. There's no way you can fingerprint. You need to time ad right now. Here we go. We're going to Windows. We can seduce and time ad. I think the Zucker is going to leave before we can seduce, though. They do indeed. It's canceled. We need to time ad. We need to time ad right now. Will Ethan notice? There's a time ad. It's a white test, and there were beeps at the end, so this is going to be very noticeable, but no reaction yet from Ethan on the lights.
it's true, and so like we did need to do that. Unfortunately, it was late. We are gonna take a normal drink. I mean, the thing
I
is, like 45 seconds is not that much time, though.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, again, like we talked about this before, where
Yeah, right.
what's the benefit of the drink at all?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna fake, but again,
That's
like there's
that's
not
something.
anything fake
Who
for.
could be done? who could be done? The highlights get bumped back down to neutral. A couple other highlights come out for potentially having a reel there. It is suspected, but we're going off that entirely, and we're back down to 20 seconds, and we're right where we were before, except the highlights have changed. We have no more mission progress than we did before, not even an additional flirt. We're going to have to rush to windows again. Are we really going to time out here with Ruby Finals almost on the line?
Yeah, we're not even making a move to the windows. It's just done. And the thing is, like, as much as we're critiquing this, I am sure SykoSloth is screaming at themselves the exact kind of things that we are saying right now.
Yeah.
This is just falling apart. Yeah. And I don't want to belabor that too much because I've been in that position. Believe you
Yes.
me, I've had my fair share of timeouts, and I'm mad at myself. But you can't sugarcoat it. We had a great start, and then we focused in and just got obsessed with doing it in a certain sequence and just fell apart at the end.
I think that's a good way to put it. You just kind of fall in love with a certain sequence. When it doesn't line up, you just don't improvise. You don't change the plans. We are both very psychologically sympathetic, but strategically, you're right. There's no way to sugarcoat it. That was just waving the white flag, and you got to wonder if the score factors in a little bit. If you're thinking, "Hey, I had my chance, but I'm looking at basically more or less running the table here, and at this point, I'm just going to take my licks and move on." And well, that might be what's about to happen here. Sizzling Monarch Ethan with a chance to close it out now, up 9-4, but they are going to need yet another spy win to do it, to take Ruby outright, but they have so many match points. They're going to roll with Queen here on Ballroom to try to get it done in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Boy, that Monarch thing was well timed. Immediate bug and shot.
Wait. No.
This feels like planned. This feels planned. The bug has not started yet.
No. Was okay, so all right. Is this a mind read, or is this trying to just throw and just end the series in my pain?
I think it might be a throw. The only reason I haven't immediately agreed that it's a throw is because I know there's some Queen General nonsense. We have shot one of the characters that you might shoot for a meme.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm going to point out. But you're right. When you combine it with the kind of white flag thing I mentioned in the previous game, there might be an element of, I really just don't want to be here. I don't want to be around anymore, as Tim Robinson would put it. Let's just shoot the, oh, wait, oh my God, I got it right? Could I have just been doing this the whole time?
I don't know what to say. It's been a long time since since people actually take the random shot stuff, like just because I'll say, like, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I will totally
Yeah,
admit,
no,
like,
I
you
know.
can just like shoot for the first possible thing, like, and like
Sure.
basically do almost a psychological throw of just like, I'm gonna shoot the first person that has contact and inspects, and just like
Yeah,
plausibly say that I could have done it. Like, I'm not gonna put a lot of mental effort into this.
that's
I'm
not a
done.
total
Okay.
throw. That is
Right.
just yes, I am not getting my hopes up, so I'm going to take an aggressive shot, right?
But it's been a very long time. So like we've cast like long casual sets together, and people throw this kind of thing in there every once in a while. It's hilarious because they'll shoot the right person. Um, this is interesting. I think that this will not change it just because the score is also still disparate enough. But also, I don't think that the Psycho's position is one where we're gonna feel like we've been gotten bad luck. This would be a perfect remedy if you feel like you've lost a lot of games because you had terrible luck, and then you're like, the game's just against me. I want to get out of this. Like, I feel like I'm playing well, but I'm just getting screwed over by the game. And you
Yeah.
get this, maybe you get a second wind, right? That's not, I think, Psycho's position. So I don't think this is going to help them in that way, but
No.
it's remarkable.
It is remarkable. I think you're right. I think it was a throw. I think it was I'm done here. But it's really, really funny that it happens the way it does. And I mean, there is like a 2% chance that you freak out Ethan enough. um, I don't think it's going to freak them out on both sides of the rifle exactly, but it does go into pub now, where after all that, your attempt to get out of this, instead you have to play a pub game, which is pretty hard to win as spy anyway, against the sniper who has tormented you a fair bit. Boy, this set has not gone the way we expected at all. I don't think it's gone the way the players expected either. But you still need 5 more in a row if you're SykoSloth. FireLordEthan says, okay, small stay of execution, but the real thing's coming pretty soon. SykoSloth as Seek in pub in 3, 2, one playing it. I was tempted to say, oh my god, these etiquette snipers are out of control. Please nerf.
Oh, we have a weird little stop there, even though we're under AI control. Speaking of etiquette,
See,
and
that's
we
why
end
etiquette
up,
spunk right there. Come on.
yeah.
Come on.
Uh,
Also, our
Also,
shoulder is in the queen's face.
right, after she just did so much for us, I was curious if the seduction target queen pick is intentional, where it's like, okay, I like you did me good in that one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I'll reward you by seducing you? Okay, fine. At least we chose a tall, handsome character.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, I guess I have no idea where Psycho's mentality is going to be after this,
I just
just because
there's no
it's such
precedent
a
for this.
right. So we'll see, because like normally I'd be like, okay, if somebody wants a low effort, well, I mean, we actually are kind of going this route. The low effort play is flirt, inspect. Oh, also a fingerprint here though. That's interesting.
Yeah, this
And
is very
like a
interesting.
coin flip either for just forcing the contact or doing a purloin. But I mean, we'll see. We are grabbing that purloin.
I think we're just going for it. Look, I mean, you've got, like I said, stay of execution. You might as well go very hard in this game. You still need a bunch of games in a row. If it were closer, fine, but if it were closer, you probably wouldn't have done that either. So have a little fun with this. It is more fun to be aggressive than to be timid. And so I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, and we jump into this conversation circle. We do actually leave enough space for Queen to come in. Queen does not come in. I wasn't sure if we would just come in here and immediately send someone, because that would be a bit too aggressive. Double Agent and Seduction Target are both at bar, unfortunately, while we're kind of stuck out here. Ambassadors staying kind of still. So the kinds of things we've set ourselves up for, as
Yeah.
far as Fingerprint, Seduce, and this Purloin, aren't going to really pan out. I don't think we should actually send anybody at this point.
No.
It's been a little bit too long. I don't think it would take, and would just have a send on our resume. We do really need ambassador to move, and they will. They
Yeah.
got forced out by double agent. We could try to do something like go pick up briefcase contact while we're in the circle. That would be fun.
Here we go with the fingerprint. This could be the shot. This could be Ruby right here. We're going to contact while holding the briefcase as we leave. What a little maneuver. But FireLordEthan is all over it. Right in the ruby red turban, and that is gonna do it after, let's say, one more game than I think either of us expected.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I was kind of concerned that Psycho was just going to do something silly, like just go and add time over and over again until they got shot or something like that. This is actually a really reasonable finish. Like,
It is.
I actually like it. We did have to hit the green, but it's a tricky little thing that we're doing right there. It's nice, right? Like, of course, Ethan is tracking the fact that there's fingerprints and like is very aware of this as a possibility. So they're on top of that, all that kind of good stuff. But it's a plausible finish, and it's a nice swing. So well done, SykoSloth's part there to just try to take a nice reasonable swing. Actually, to be totally honest, one of their better spy games coming at the end
It
there.
was. It was. The time pressures of pub have something to do with it. And SykoSloth, as we mentioned, is a very good sniper. Even though the spy win rates would not suggest it from this match, the analysis, reasonable though I like to think it was, ends up being completely diametrically wrong. Which is to say, spies won the day, and both snipers struggled a fair bit. But I don't think it was sniper mistakes so much as spy strengths. There were some aggressive lowlights, but they made plenty of sense. And in the end, it was just FireLordEthan winning more of those spy games and twice as many games overall to take Ruby outright.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that happens to the champions of their various leagues, or is that kind of just like they win the league, they get the title, and then they'll be going up at least one league in the future?
My understanding is that both finalists make it, but there are enough drops in these leagues, as we all know, that having that little extra priority for promotion can matter quite a bit. I know that the two finalists in Ruby last season both ended up in Grandmasters, I think, this season. So even though it's the third division, you can get a lot of jumps very heavily, very quickly. So this could be an early preview of Grandmaster next season or beyond.
Very, very cool. Well, I mean, so obviously SykoSloth struggling down the stretch in the end there, but put together a really good season. So I do hope that they look back on the season with some pride, because they took second in an extremely competitive group of players. So and actually even had a good showing in there, except for just like a couple of spy games. So well done to both players. Ethan, looking good. had some trouble on some of the spy stuff, and again, kind of like a strange and interesting set. Very unlike some of the players they might be facing if they move up the ranks a lot, but still very exciting to see that player start to really excel and come into their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming on strong, one of the newer players, as you mentioned, but SykoSloth, no slouch. Congratulations to Ethan. Commiserations to SykoSloth, who can't spell, but they sure can spy. It was a great match, all in all. Entertaining being the main thing, even more than competitive. And it was, I would say, both. As we say almost every cast, the score does not tell the entire story. A lot of interesting individual games as well. Anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
I don't think so. Just happy to see more Spy Party, and I guess what is the next match? I guess there's a match tomorrow. Is that another championship, or is that just a regular season game?
Yeah, it looks like a promotion demotion match. We're being told Grosh versus Astatine Effect. Am I saying that right? I am indeed. And we're going to have Rav and Gabrio tomorrow. And the host will be Nebula, who I should note has been our host today, our silent host, running everything perfectly behind the scenes. Thank you to Slappy. Thank you to the competitors. Thank you to Nebula. And thank you to you, the viewer, for joining us.